Well, hey, I'm back. If you watched my previous video and you now are moving on to this video about income tax administration, I'm still here in Portland, Oregon. It's still a little bit chilly outside today in spring. We're in April. It is 2019, April of 2019. So if you're watching this video in the future and some of this information seems outdated or like ancient history, that might be why. So take that to put that in the proper context. This topic I'm calling the administration of income taxes, and every business has to consider how they manage their tax liabilities. How do they manage their tax exposure? How do they manage the fact they have to pay income tax? That is an issue for every business, and so the cannabis industry, of course, is no different. It's infamously got specific issues, the application of Code Section 280E, which disallows overhead costs and any other expense of the business other than the direct cost of goods sold or the direct production costs. And I'll talk a lot more about that particular topic. But when I talk about income tax administration, I mean determining how you're going to file taxes. How do you go about determining your tax positions, and so on. And specifically, I kind of subtopic to this under income tax administration. My subtitle to this is why we follow the IRS position. And so, to make this case as bluntly and as simply as I can, let's consider some of the risks, just some of the risks that I can think of for a cannabis business. Those of you operating in this industry probably can think of a lot of other risks that I haven't even considered. But you've got all kinds of state and local regulations that you're already dealing with, right? And so and you're trying to stay on top of those. When I talk about these state and local regulations, I mean the state and local regulations that deal with the actual physical production that you do, or the selling of product that you do, the collection of payments that you do, and how all that works under your state's rules and regulations. You've got to deal with that, right? Like in Oregon, and I think other states are similar to this, we've got a system called metric where you've got to log your inventory from seed to sale. I mean, that's an extra administrative burden. You've got risks of implementing that incorrectly and having to deal with that, deal with fines or possible shutdown if you don't do things like that right. So that's just one example, right? Okay, so you've got state and local regulations, you've got market forces. Here in Oregon, during 2008, cannabis companies, cannabis businesses, particularly on the grower end, got killed. They were doing really well on the grower end until the licensing was opened up to just about everybody, and then we just had a flood of product, and what you would call the spot price of cannabis on the market went down through the floor, and that really hurt a lot of businesses and those really trying to do something great here, right? So I think that you've got that's a risk in any kind of business. Those are particular risks that occur in agribusinesses. It's those market forces and constant changing spot prices, supply and demand issues that you have to deal with in your industry, of course. Other common agribusiness risks, which would apply in some cases to the growers here: crop failures, pesticides showing up in the supply chain. These are issues that you all have to deal with, right? Employee issues. A lot of your employees in this industry are a transient workforce. You got to be concerned about training and retraining, and can you trust them, and issues with fraud and so on, right? And banking issues. If you saw my last video about the industry environment, I talked a little bit about how what the limited amount of banking. In Oregon here, we've got a few credit unions that work with cannabis, but not a lot of other options. And if you're doing enough volume, you really can't just operate in cash. You really do need to work with one of those few options. So that presents certain risks for you.